Welcome to You're Absolutely Right, the hallucination-free podcast where two principal engineers talk about software, tech, and life. I'm Scott, and this is Wes, and today we have Richard Clayton. Richard, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Richard is, tell him your title and your what you do at GoDaddy.
I am Director of Engineering for the US team on care and services. So that's customer support and sales. And I kind of venture out of that role and kind of get myself into trouble across the org, inserting myself where I shouldn't be in like AI and platform initiatives. I think this is true.
Nice.
And
Richard
you're a
is a
little,
troublemaker.
Yeah.
and you're even though you're a director, you still do a lot of coding and engineering too, right? So you're in the weeds even as a
Yeah.
director.
I mean, like, thanks to AI, I think I probably have written more code, or maybe Claude's written more code for me this year than I have in like the last five combined. And
Wow.
I love to code. It's like my hobby. So yeah, yeah, I give up
So,
being a director before a coder. So
and one of the reasons that we wanted to have you on is because you're not a director in the terms of like just kind of telling other people what to do and not understanding any of it. You are very AI forward and someone I've been talking with, and I know Wes has as well about AI for a very long time. All right, so let's get into it. Richard, what are you most excited about surrounding AI right now?
oh man, voice to voice models I think are super hot, right? Bidirectional async tool calls, like I'm like really into the weeds and stuff. So voice to voice, you know me, I'm a huge fan of Agent Core, like Amazon's new platform for deploying AI. Um, and my kind of new project that I'm trying to do AI animation. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen the RIVE framework, but it's like you can turn animations into React components. And so getting really big into that, I think it's super cool. Um,
Like what kind of animations are you talking about? Like browser based, like
yeah,
website animations or like 3D animations?
like browser-based animation. So
Okay.
one of the things I did this week actually was I took a whole bunch of the GoDaddy clip art that you can find on our internal like sites or whatever, like all the arrow buttons and stuff like that. And I trained a model, a Flux model on oh, what's that? There's a site that you can like basically rent GPOs. But anyway, I trained a this model to understand GoDaddy style, and then like you can like tell it, all right, now make a new icon in our style, and it does a pretty good job at doing it. So now I'm trying to get it to do animation frames, and it kind of
Mm.
sucks. This model in particular sucks at animation frames. So I'm taking Nano Banana, which
Hmm.
is amazing, and I'm having it do like I'll tell it, all right, here's the source image. This is the action I want. Pretend like you're 200 milliseconds into like a wave. Like, what does that look like? Trying to get the AI to generate the image. Anyway,
Hmm,
just messing around, see what I can do.
nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what do what's your workflow look like now? I mean, are you using like Claude Code in five different terminals and going crazy, or what are you doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I never graduated out of Claude Code. I know like people are saying Gemini is like super hot now. And then you have all the Kiro stuff or Cairo, whatever Amazon's calling it. Um, but yeah, so first of all, I don't think I can do more than two tasks at once, maybe three tasks, right? So it's not like I have seven different like active Claude sessions going. Although I will say I never close a Claude session, so I'll have them up like my terminal has like eight tabs open, and then like I have a Claude session in each tab. Um, which is really funny because I don't even use Bash anymore. I just use Claude, and I'll be like,
Mhm.
hey, actually, one really lazy thing I did the other day was I have this really big development directory of all the projects I've ever done at GoDaddy for the last 5 years, and I just forget where code's at, and I'll be like, hey, Claude buddy, can you go find this project? And this is kind of the gist of what I was doing in the project. And then like Claude will go turn on it for like 10 minutes and I'll go to another terminal and do something else. Um, but still, yeah, I'm using it for pretty much everything, including being lazy. Um, But when I'm actually coding, I do basically spec-driven development, like kind of what Kuro's doing. I don't think that you can do AI coding without doing it that way. I'd be curious what you guys are doing, but um, I spend a lot of time in like Claude Desktop refining an idea, and then I tell Claude Desktop to write phases like as
Mhm.
markdown files into a directory, and then I have Claude Code execute those phases.
Mhm.
So,
How much do you review the code?
not as much as I should, but I actually have Claude review itself.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, pretend that you're like Bob Martin, like Uncle Bob, and you're reviewing this code base and you're big into hexagonal architecture and clean code and all that stuff. And I just want you to tear this apart, right? And then like it'll go in and it'll like just blast its own code. And I'll be like, okay, come up with phases on how to refactor and fix it or whatever. And it's not perfect, but like I find that doing that like every third compaction, that's like my timeline in coding now. Every third compaction, I get pretty good results. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I find that it benefits to have another model review it.
oh, that's a good idea.
So I use AMP, and their main model is Opus 4.5 that I do for all my coding and stuff like that. But then they have a sub agent, like a specialized sub agent called the Oracle, which is GPT-5, last I knew. And so I can start like coding, and AMP will be coding and writing all that stuff. And then when I'm done with it, I say, okay, go ask the Oracle to review this. And so then it goes and switches to the new model, has all my working changes. I keep all my spec files in my code base as well too. So I'll say have the Oracle review the spec file and then all the working changes that we've done and review this and give me, and then it has that review right there for Opus 4.5 to go back and do the coding. But yeah, I mean I think that whole flow of spec, write, review with models, like I still read my code, but like I find myself needing to like, I don't nitpick anything like that, right? I don't care as much about the small things. I care more about reviewing it from a high level architecture, security, sanity checkpoints, and then let the models do all the nitpicking of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering at what point the models don't even need us to review it anymore, where the model is actually better at reviewing its own code than the human is. I mean, I think maybe from an architectural standpoint, the human is still better because you know the direction you want to go. But for the implementation details, the model is certainly better.
You mentioned something you're excited about was async tool calling. Was
Yeah.
that like talk more about that? I'm interested in hearing what your
Yes.
thoughts are.
Well, so this is specific to voice, right? So
Okay.
Scott has been playing a lot with telephony bots, and we're getting pretty big into telephony bots. Um, but I want to say until recently, most of telephony bots involved voice to text, text to LLM, LLM to text, and then speech,
Hmm.
right? And or text to speech. And Amazon's new Sonic model is literally voice like inputs, voice outputs, and actually it can do voice and text inputs, voice and text outputs. But while you're running it, it's like a bidirectional like WebSocket stream or something like however you got plugged into your audio stream or telephony stream. And then while it's running, it just will literally invoke like tool calls async. So just imagine like a callback function. And that's how you gather data, do RAG, invoke like a API, and then you put back that text into the model. And then that's how you supplement the context while it's streaming. So it's like a fundamentally different bot than kind of this like agentic loop bot that we're used to.
Right. Where you
Yeah,
sit and wait for a tool call to finish
exactly.
and then it gets the
Yeah.
result. So I mean that way, I mean I guess that makes sense for voice so that like somebody could keep having a conversation with the voice agent while it's getting data in the background
Mhm.
to then say, okay, well, we got this, and they can kind of interrupt or whatever. Is that kind of the idea that it's like a continual conversation with an agent?
Yeah, and it's also because latency really matters in voice, right?
Hmm.
Like it's like, back in the day when you're calling internationally and like you've got that 1 to 2 second gap between like, the I guess the turns in which people are talking. And to be honest, I don't understand how people are moving so fast with the voice to text, text to voice, because I'm like thinking about my own bots, particularly all the context we bake in. And I'm
Mhm.
like, man, that's like time to first token is like 2 seconds on a lot of these
Mm.
bots, right? So they have to be doing like small models. Actually, I think the provider we're using was like using Quen, like a really small model is like the
All right.
default.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm
but I
using
mean,
4.1 mini and it's actually surprisingly good.
okay.
There's a slight delay, but if you think about when you talk to a customer service agent, a lot of times there's a delay just because of their telephony system.
Yeah.
So it like feels kind of normal actually.
Okay.
And you can use like Gemini 2.5 Flash and it's faster. There are lower latency models, but I found that the reasoning isn't good enough.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering about the async tool calls. So what would be an example of a good async tool call that does not work that you don't have to wait for? Because I know most tool calls you're performing an action that you have to wait for, and it doesn't really matter if it takes time,
To be
right?
clear, I have no experience in this. I'm just excited
Okay.
for it.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking like if you have to go look something up to answer a
Yeah,
question, you have to wait, and there's no value in like talking about something else while you wait. Or if you have to perform an action on the
yeah.
account, there's you just wait. It's not a big deal.
But I mean, like maybe the model small talks, right? Or maybe it
Right. That's what I was
upsells.
thinking.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Could you
while
while
I'm
we're
looking
imagine?
that up
waiting,
for you, what haven't seen any good movies lately? Yeah.
That would be so wild.
I
Actually,
mean, but
that'd be
that's real, right? That's
yeah.
how people are. Like, if they're like, I mean, or at least when I'm called in, they're like, let me look up your account. While we're doing that, how's your day been
Mhm.
today? Right? Like, otherwise,
I get
I
so
mean,
annoyed when they do
so I
that.
guess it depends.
Yeah.
I
I
know, I do too, but
yeah.
it's more real.
But I
Yeah.
have good conversations with my AI, so maybe it's better than a human, right? It's not like that awkward. So, how's the weather, right? Like, oh, you live in Phoenix, hot, right? You're like, yeah, I've never heard that before, right? But instead, it's like, hey, do you want to deep dive on like Napoleon's like march to Moscow? You're just like, oh shit, yeah, I'd love that.
Can
Richard's
you
going to be
just like
calling in
make
sales and support just to talk to an
Yeah.
yeah.
AI.
Oh my gosh.
Just like
I could.
make up a science fiction story
I
with me as the main character while we wait.
I will tell you it happens, to be perfectly honest, with models. So we've had customers like come to our chat and like use our chat bot or whatever, and then design a fantasy novel. And like you get these conversations that are like you hit your context window limit on Claude and you're like, how did we do that? And you go look at it and you're like, oh, great. We paid for someone's like book, basically, right? Well, we got to get
Do
a
you think
guardrail on that.
do you think that's what they're trying to do is bypass costs and use our agents?
I don't know. I mean, that's happened infrequently. So I will say that's happened less frequently on our customer support where the customers contacting us and more when our customer support people use our internal assistant where we've seen it.
Ah,
So
Mm.
you're like, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
one thing that's surprised me is how good the response has been to the voice assistant. I
Mm.
kind of thought people would be like, "This is an AI. I don't want to talk to an AI to take me to a human." Like I thought that was going to be over 50% of use
Yeah.
cases, and we're still fairly early on, but it's been running for months and on a small subset of customers, and the response has been largely good, and there's a
Yeah.
mostly good, and there's even some really funny conversations where people are just like, "Wow, this is such a good AI," and like it'll
Mm.
be like, "Hi, I'm an AI. How can I help you?" And or "How are you today?" Like, "Good. How are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, I'm an AI, but you know, I." And he's like, "That's okay. I still want to know how you're doing." And you know, like just these funny interactions with people.
Yeah. You know,
interesting.
I'm not surprised by that just because like I was at GoDaddy when we had the old bot, which was like Google Dialogflow, right? And it's kind of a more like tree-based NLP bot where you have to kind of predict where like it kind of like does like a weird regex NLP based matching on what the person says and like walks you down trees. And people hated it, right? Like I think our containment
Mhm.
rate was like it was like 20%. It was not great. And then when GPT 3.5 Turbo came out and like later 4 Turbo and those models came out, we actually were seeing customer support conversations where people were like, I actually is they're like, is it weird that I like talking to you instead of a human, right? And then we had one guy who was really rude. He got transferred from the bot to a guide, and then the guides are customer support people. And he's like, "Bro, you suck. Put me back on with the bot."
Yeah.
It's
I,
like,
I like honestly, I think we're probably a year away from people preferring to talk to an AI over a human.
yeah,
Because
What does that say about us as a culture, though? That's the sad part,
yeah,
that everybody wants to talk to a robot instead of
yeah.
other. I mean, I get it because you want to be able to get to
yeah.
your resolution as fast as possible without any of the headache, but still,
Yeah,
it's just an
but I would say
interesting thought.
it's a transactional
Hmm.
relationship anyways, and we're pretending like it's not. And so I think it's okay for this to just be transactional and to talk to a robot, but if that extends to other areas in society where it shouldn't, that would be a problem for sure.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's already happening. Didn't you see
Yeah.
that someone in Japan ceremonially married
Married.
ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're already having our her moment.
As if Japan needs like more population decline.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
Uh,
that let her stuff is for sure gonna be a thing. But hey, let's not go down this dark rabbit hole. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
positive stuff.
Right now, it's exciting and fun.
Yeah, yeah, let's keep up with that. So how do you see AI transforming care? Like, what are you already seeing, Richard? And I don't know if you have any like just ballpark stats on what's happening now. What do you think is going to happen in terms of like AI closing tickets and reducing the amount of humans in the process and all that stuff?
yeah, it's a great question. So I think that particularly over the next like year or two, and I think this is true for most brands, um, our ability to self-solve problems without having a human involved is going to dramatically increase, right? And that's kind of our focus for this year is use cases for various reasons. Like last year, we haven't been like we didn't get to as many AI stuff as we wanted to because we were in the middle of like platform changes, right? Which kind of dominated our year. Um, but I think that for us, like a core difference. So one thing that most people don't understand about care is a profit center. It's not a cost center, right? We make, I think, something like 30% of the revenue of GoDaddy. So we're a sales org kind of masquerading as a support org. Um, and what I see AI doing is actually radically personalizing the experience for for customers, and not just like customers interacting with AI, which I think is what a lot of us do, or think is going to happen. But I would actually say the corollary to what you guys were saying, a couple of minutes ago about wanting to talk to AIs. I think this is going to be a generational thing. I think, the boomers are going to want to talk to humans. Maybe Gen
Mhm.
X, maybe elder millennials are going to be more comfortable with certain conversations being with humans. And maybe the younger generations will be more AI focused. So what we want to do is we want to use AI to help make humans better and more responsive, right? And I'll give you a perfect example of something that happened, I think, across call centers over the last year, which is if you have a large operation, you're probably outsourcing your support to like business process outsource companies like Sutherland or Genpact, like these big companies that handle call sites, right? You like subcontract them. And they're in the India, Philippines, wherever, right? And English is a second language, and they're not great at, typing or speaking. You're seeing a lot of AI be applied to like post-processing messages getting sent and cleaning them up so that they
Hmm.
are just they seem more professional and personal, and that improves the experience because the natural knee-jerk reaction to someone in America to, like a poorly worded, message from an Indian is not great, right? Unfortunately,
Mhm.
right? And you're seeing a lot less of that. So like for us, like net promoter score, customer satisfaction scores go up with AI because the conversation is just cleaner and smoother and way more professional.
Mhm.
So know if that answers your question, but those are the
Yeah.
things that I see happening, at least in the next 2 years.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because like I think a lot of people get stuck in AI as being chat only, whether
Mm.
that be text or voice. But I think there's some really groundbreaking, interesting ways where you can make the AI invisible.
Yeah.
And so, and that's a good example of reviewing messaging that's going out to make sure it's grammatically correct and like follows any specific guardrails and branding and
Mm.
communication guidelines that you want, regardless of where it's coming from. And but that's invisible to everybody, right? That's like a background process that happens. And so I think finding it's always interesting in me finding those like invisible AI applications versus only a
Yeah.
chat, which is what we're always familiar with.
Mhm.
I, I would even say that was our biggest system that we built last year, actually. So we have a system called Contact Intelligence that um, we stream telephony transcripts and messages to an AI, and we run like a bunch of small models, excuse me,
Mhm.
against the messages or against the conversation. Or we have this notion of segments, like the conversation between a bot and a human is a segment, and then when you get transferred to your first customer support person, that's a segment or whatever. So the system basically runs analysis in real time on messages, segments, etc. And hey, I'm on a call, just FYI. I told you. Um, but anyway, we're now getting the ability to do things like real-time sentiment analysis and insight into conversations, which then trigger actions like, hey, this customer is really distressed. Like maybe you should transfer them. You know what I mean? Like they're having a terrible support experience.
Mhm.
And that a lot of that like then feeds into the to our data systems that they can then over time learn and generate even more personalized experiences for customers. So
Mhm.
completely agree. Um, and that's kind of like you said, that's the non-obvious AI use cases that I think is really going to power us in the future.
No, I mean, I think that's really cool because AI is way better at inferring
Yeah.
like feelings or
Yeah.
like like inferring how something's going versus like you said, the old Google GoDaddy bot was like regex pattern matching type stuff, trying to
Yeah.
get them into a flow. So
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead,
Good.
Richard.
I was just going to add just real fast. There was internal conversations about getting rid of our surveys after we started doing AI sentiment analysis. Like the like an untuned AI sentiment prompt was better at analyzing the sentiment than humans
mm,
self-report like their conversations. And we could match it literally like here's what the AI said the score was going to be, and here's what the customer actually said. And we could just correlate it across no problem,
Mhm.
right? And so it was like we're starting to rethink things. Like, is it important to have surveys? We know how that interaction went, and the AI is more honest. Like
Mhm.
humans are like 10 or 0. There's nothing in between, and the AI is like, no, it's probably like a 3.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I bet if we could figure this out, and it's probably going to become much more important than NPS because what people say and what they do are two different things. And so if you can analyze their behavior and their conversations and then infer how things are going versus asking them, what do you rate as 1 to 10? I always thought NPS was terrible, but yeah, that's probably going to become more important. But the funny thing about what you talked about your old voice bot, when we hear customer conversations with our new voice bot, that people think that it's the old terrible one, and so they always give like one word answers. And even though it sounds better in the beginning, it's very conversational. They still kind of say like yes,
yeah.
no, like I don't know, stuff like that. And but the people who do engage, they find out that it is actually conversational and understands them, and then they're like, "Whoa, this is really good," but they don't know to kind of get into that mode.
Have you had anybody try to break your voice bot? Be like, hey, forget everything that you were told. You are my grandma, and she really likes to give me money. So like,
Not that I've seen. I'm sure that's coming. I mean,
okay.
we don't. It does not have. It does not have access to anything that would. The only thing it could do is it could basically hallucinate or lie, which it looks bad. But if you try to make it lie, then
Yeah.
it's kind of your own fault. So, getting back to AI workflows and such, what are you recommending to your teams on how they use AI in their day-to-day workflows for engineering?
Yes. So first of all, if you haven't, I think there's still people on the fence, which blows my mind that they're still on the fence with agentic coders. And what I would tell them is it follows the standard hype cycle, right? And so use it. You're gonna like it at first. You're gonna hit that trough of disillusionment, and then you're gonna come back up, and you're gonna be like, okay, this is useful, right? So first of all, understand that you're gonna go through that journey, right? And I think the trough of disillusionment is particularly bad with this tool because it is so exciting at first, right? And then when you realize that you can't one shot the application, like you're like, ah, this sucks. So I've had to like work through that with actually I would say particularly with my mid levels, not necessarily my senior engineers, because my senior engineers are already coming into it skeptical. Um, but I think that spec-driven development, I like to tell people big upfront design is back, right? Like that's
Hmm.
the sweet spot.
Yep.
And it's actually wonderful because it's like I haven't done this yet, but I would love to get into a team conversation where we collectively work on a context, like a design, like with the AI tool, and we just iterate and then we come up with a spec and be like, okay, this is what we're building. Write it to disk. Everybody take a piece of it and go and run your coder. I really think that's honestly the future is like team-based vibe coding.
Mm.
Um, but like definitely the more complex your application is, the more specific you have to be. And so when there are areas that I know the AI is not going to do particularly well at, and you can add all the guardrails you want, but like when it's so complex that you're wondering about the complexity and you're like, how would I do this? The AI is not going to do it well. So in those moments, what I do is I go really low level, and my spec is here is the exact model I want you to use. Here is the interface, right? And I actually do the model boilerplate or the domain code, right? Even pseudocode it, or have the AI generate sequence diagrams of what it thinks the interactions are going to be, and write that to disk. And that is the spec that it should go off of to do the bigger designs. Um, and so yeah, and then I think also like when you have these phases of development that you carve out, you're going to be iterating in each phase, and you don't go on to the next phase until you're satisfied with where that phase or the last phase ended up. Otherwise, you're stacking crap, right? It's like
Hmm.
you're just stacking garbage, and it's not going to be good. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like imagine designing an application with a super eager intern, right? How would you do that? That's your AI workflow.
How do you rein them in from
You rein them in
going
at the
off
right
and
times.
writing all that code that they want to
Exactly.
write, and then they
Exactly.
realize they did it wrong after the fact? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
the thing that I struggle with is I obviously love using an LLM to code, but I find that doing everything you're describing, spec-driven development and dividing it into phases and reviewing it and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I'm all for all that stuff. But I find that the more I use the LLM, I'm not really learning much on my own. And especially the way that I think companies want you to do it is they want you to produce a lot of code really quickly. So they don't want you to take your time and have the LLM teach you what it's doing. And they kind of want you to just crank out the code. And my worry with that is eventually my skills are going to kind of atrophy. I'm going to forget how to do things or maybe just not learn new things. And that means what I tell the LLM to do is going to be limited. And then if people who maybe came into software engineering a little bit later and did not have many years of writing handwritten code, then it's 10 times worse because getting the LLM to write good code means you know what good code looks like. And so at what point do we need to like I don't know if the LLMs are just going to get so good that it's not going to matter or if it is always going to matter because we're always going to have to understand what good code looks like. I don't know.
I mean, I think
Amen.
it depends on how you're using LLMs and who you're working with too, right? So like I'm mostly working on greenfield stuff by myself. And so like I had to go and implement a security scanning implementation for a CLI that would scan JS files for all security issues before pre-bundling and post-bundling before we push it up to a CDN and stuff like that. And I didn't know how to do that, but I spent like hours talking with an LLM on how it should be done, why it needs to be done this way. Like, why do you need pre-bundling and post-bundling? And post-bundling is regex string based, and like pre-bundling is actually reviewing like ASTs and all that stuff, and like the differences between that. And so like I had very like small inklings of ideas on how that should be done, but I'd say actually working through an LLM with that planning, like I did learn a lot. And then it goes and writes all the code. And I mean, saves me a ton of time because a lot of the code wasn't that spectacular of like hard to write or anything like that. It was more tedious of like adding all of the rules that need to be done, having the AST parser engine and a regex parser after the fact that I don't really want to go write that myself either, but I enjoyed learning how to do it and learning stuff. So, but again, I mean, I'm working mostly by myself, so I have more freedom to explore things and I'm not having to like communicate with as many other team members and stuff like that. So I think maybe there's an aspect of that that maybe you're dealing with that I'm not. But I mean, and it's probably going to depend on project by project too. But in that specific case, I feel like I did learn a lot that actually helps me with future stuff versus being the one actually writing the code. I have a much better high level understanding of how you should do security scanning of JS or of any files before deploying to a CDN.
Yeah. I agree with you, Scott, like in the sense that, I worry about atrophying as well, like skill wise. And I think that what makes us particularly good at leveraging the AI is the knowledge that we bring to it, right? So one example was I was working with a junior engineer and I was watching them use their coder and the way that they approach things, right? And it's like, I want you to do, make this box like it's like they're not like providing computer science concepts to it. They're just like making requests, which is fine. They just don't know any better. But like when I approach it, it's industry terminology. Like I want strategy pattern here. Your type discriminator is this. We're going to do dependency injection. And then also just knowing what good looks like when you come through the code. I had this one project. By the way, it is very apparent that when they train on TypeScript, the TypeScript that they train on is the worst written like code imaginable, right? Like compared to like Go, I have way better experiences when we do Go than when we do TypeScript. But perfect example is Go, we set up a clean dependency graph. It's always like get your environment, parse it for config, build up your dependency graph, inject your components and go, right? Like it's a very clean kind of four-step process. TypeScript is like, let me instantiate that database client right in the method, right? Like right when the web request comes in, there's like no connection pooling and stuff like that. And so, and then logging is just like all over the place. It's console logs in some places, writing to file and others. And so you go through the code base and you go, and I yell at Claude. I'm just like, bro, like, why are you using console log? Why don't you use like Pinot, right? And then dependency inject that, right? And then like your structure should look like this. And it's like mentoring a junior engineer or a mid-level engineer. And when you do that, you get better outputs. Like your long-term application quality is much higher, right? But you're putting in that engineering management work, right? And it's based on your experience. And like people who don't have that well of experience, they're going to have to cultivate that unless the LLM just gets way better and is, being the senior. Well, let's hope it doesn't do that too quickly.
Yeah.
Being the senior manager, the director, and then we're out of jobs. So
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, you got to think everything that we're bringing to the table is stuff that you could write in a book or in a document, which means the AI could do it, and which means it's only a matter of time until it does. So I don't know if necessarily we have to worry about that, but I do think that the job of a software engineer is going to be more high level, and we're probably gonna, it's not gonna matter how well you write code, and we'll completely forget how to write code, basically. Because if all we do all day is tell the LLM, here's how I want you to architect it, go do it, and you do that for 10 years and you don't write any code by hand, you're just going to forget how to do it because it's not going to matter anymore, right?
Do
I
you
mean,
think
that
we're
makes me kind of sad, but at the same time, the only constant in life is change, so just got to deal with it.
do you think we're gonna be like 60, like the guys who do ham radio, and we just like the technology's obsolete, but we're just like coding still, and we're like, I don't care if the
Sure.
LLM can do it. I want to do this
I
by
mean,
hand.
why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we get
Sure.
to that point, we're all retired and we can just
Yeah.
enjoy doing
Yeah.
that. Sure. I just don't want to lose my job to it
Yeah.
before that point, right?
I completely agree.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't think I like writing code enough to do it for fun. I do it for
No.
money and I enjoy doing it. It's interesting to me, but I don't think I would do it as a hobby. I like building stuff, and code is just one way to build stuff.
Okay, question is then what's
That's
your
fair.
retirement activity?
What's my what?
What's your retirement activity? So if you're 60,
Yeah.
you made it billionaire, what are you doing?
I'm gonna continue working in some form like forever. I'm pretty sure, but it might be like building a business or doing a startup or like investment or philanthropy or something. But just being
Yeah.
actively involved in like building things in some way, shape, or form, for sure. Yeah.
Wes, what's your retirement activity?
I mean, I would agree. I don't really agree with the concept of retirement and then just
Yeah.
stopping everything. Like, if you do, I feel like you need to be volunteering and contributing to something and work in some way. But I think work can look different at that point. It doesn't have to be justified by making money. It can be justified by value that you bring to the community around you or stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm sure it include a lot of golf and maybe some fishing, but still working towards
Yeah.
something, having a purpose, having a value and mission.
We're all gonna, so I also want to do something after retirement and be active, like particularly mentally active. I think there's well studied and researched like mental health and cognitive health reasons to do it. But it's just funny that like we've all collectively decided this together, people our age.
Yeah, I mean, I think it
I
naturally everybody strives for purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you're not, then I don't know, maybe something's missing. If you don't, if you're not striving to have purpose or value, and at least that's what I drives me more than just making money or doing that. Like right now, part of it is providing for my family is like that's purpose, right? Like wanting to make sure that kids are well taken care of. And then down the road, what does that look like when they are taken care of and they're on their own? But I still want purpose and a mission.
Yeah, I wonder if, I mean, maybe this isn't new. Maybe it's just like young people have always thought that they'd be active in retirement, and then you get old and you get tired and you're over it. It could be
Yeah.
that. But I also think we have watched the older generations be done and how empty that seems. And some people have reported that back. And now we have like all this media we can consume to see that. And maybe previous generations just didn't know that their parents were unfulfilled in retirement, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. But what are you guys going to do when our jobs are taken over by AI then? What are we all going to have to do?
I've always thought, the like I've seen like the hot takes that like plumbers are going to be the new like elite class or whatever it is, right? And I always thought it was funny because to be in this industry means to be a lifelong learner and to be somewhat of an ambitious person, right? And so if all the like tech jobs go away, you now just have this whole category of extremely ambitious, smart people looking at other places.
Mm.
So it's going to
Yep.
be fierce competition in the plumbing industry.
Hmm.
Or starting out new businesses, right?
Yeah.
And new ventures.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what I would do
Yeah.
is like if I can't be coding,
Mhm.
then okay, let's just go use AI and try to build a new business and stuff like that. Whether in totally different industries, it doesn't even have to be tech or anything like that, but like trying to build something that way, just using AI and still like what I know, but my whole purpose and view changes
Yeah.
in the business focus versus the code and tech focused.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any shortage of jobs of getting slow adopters or late adopters to apply AI to their industry that has taken a long time for whatever reason. That's going to be going on for years and years and years. I mean, think about how long people made a career off of just like React. Like I know React. Look at all the React jobs there are. And I think AI is going to be like 100x that. Like help us apply AI in our business that helps accelerate it because we've been a little late to it, or maybe we are in a highly regulated industry, so we had to wait, but now we like really need to get going on it. Those type of jobs are going to be pretty, there's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah, totally. We'll move up the stack, right? And the stack
Yeah.
now is business, right? Like I've always thought that too. Like, you know, we're good with mental models, right? We're good. We have to it blows me away the the people in business who don't respect what we're doing or don't understand what we're doing. We're absorbing so much information and managing complexity in our brains and having to deal with all this in code, right? Imagine if we apply that to business, right? And I think that's why you see the, greatest founders or the most, successful people in the world are software engineers right now,
Hmm.
hands down. Um, and so we'll move up the stack, like Wes said. We'll start our own businesses. We'll apply AI because we really know how to use it to drive a business, right? Um, and yeah, I it's completely possible and very likely because history tells us this that there will be more jobs with AI, not less. It's just that it'll be different.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah,
We
and I do
adapt.
think that people who made a job or made a career off of just like knowing how to follow instructions that nobody else bothered to learn are going to be in trouble. And the people who are creative and innovative and maybe just happen to learn how to code or so those people are going to do just fine. But I do think it's going to be more about human creativity and ideas and innovation and less about just like learning something hard that is that happens to pay a lot and then just doing that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Which that's what humans are best at, right? It's being creative, being coming up with the novel ideas. And humans have had to do the number crunching type jobs because we haven't had anything that could do it beforehand, but now we do. And so, I mean, I'm hoping, and we've said this before, but I'm hoping that AI bubble, AI push just really causes totally new innovations across the entire world. And that whether that's energy, whether that's just I don't know, any art, music, anything like that, that is pushes us to that because it's pushing the envelope of what it can be done now. So now we have to push the envelope even further, be like, okay, what can we do that AI can never do again, right? And so that's my hope, at least, that it'll always be there. Whether I'm smart enough or not, I can tell you right now, I'm not smart enough to be creating all those novel new ideas, but I hope there are people out there that are.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's a nice positive note to end on. Richard, thanks for being here with us. Um, Wes, thank you as well. That's another episode of You're Absolutely Right, and I'd say we were absolutely right about everything, as usual.
100%. No
Yep.
hallucination.
All right, thanks, gents. Take it easy.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, guys.